long as you do the.
It should go right. Well, you might have to.
What's up, family? Welcome back to the Grace Cafe, where we talk about real stuff in real times, real situations with real people, but keeping the perspective on God's grace.
All my days I've been searching.
And welcome on behalf of Dwain Lynch, President and Executive Director of Grace Four Steps Reentry Program. Did you know that around 650,000 returning citizens and recovering addicts are released into the community every year? 2/3 of that number are either rearrested or relapsed. More than half of that number return to prison or treatment within 1 to 3 years. The Grace Four Steps Reentry Program is a faith-based nonprofit organization with a mission to house, educate, and assist returning citizens and recovering addicts to reacclimate themselves back into society. Our vision is to reduce recidivism and relapse by offering services and tools to our participants that will help them to stabilize themselves effectively and sufficiently back into the community, helping them become productive citizens, reconnecting with their loved ones, and reforming their lives for better living. We are asking for your support in providing life-changing opportunities for our participants. Every contribution saves someone's life. Every dollar helps, and we are always grateful for any and every amount received. So do us a favor, go text the letters GFSR to 1-833-536-0718. Thank you in advance for choosing to donate to our organization.
What's up, family? Welcome back to the Grace Cafe, where we talk about real stuff at real times, real situation with real people, but keeping the perspective on God's grace. We are excited and happy that you are here. You decided to tune in, and we greatly appreciate you. Want to give a shout out to Melly Mel. He was supposed to be here, but he Lord under the weather, so send your prayers out to him to cover him. That he'll be back in action very, very soon. Um, so today I have my wonderful wife with me to, to just get this thing going. And what we're gonna talk about today is we're gonna piggyback off of what Melvin and I. Oh no, was it me and you?
No,
Or,
I'm sure Mel.
yeah, Melvin and I talked about last week, and that's how we see the world today. And the way we see the world today is not necessarily the way, everybody don't see the world the same today. Just like, things were happening back in the day, that's not the same today. So we're going to talk about that kind of stuff and just how we see things in this day and time. Because it's always it's perspective is everything. That's my thing. Perspective is everything, because you can be going a certain way, and your perspective be jacked up, and then it ends you up in the wrong situation or in the wrong place. But you don't know that until you hit a wall or you run into trouble or whatever the case may be. So people see things differently all the way around the board. I see things different than my wife. She sees things different than me. So, at the end of the day, where's the middle ground? You know?
It's funny you say that because we see things through what I call your experience lens.
Mm-hmm.
because your experiences will it'll change how you see things.
Yeah.
You know, it'll change what you see, how you see it, how you respond to it. And so it's just based on your own personal experience. And sometimes your experience doesn't give you the opportunity to see things from a grace-based perspective.
Yeah,
So,
true. That's true. But just to give you a little perspective on which way we're going, I got a short video that I want you guys to watch real quick, and we will be right back.
I was playing a game with my 9-year-old son, John Leslie, and I beat him 10 straight games in a game called Connect 4. And finally, I said, John Leslie, I'm bored. I don't want to play you anymore. And I got up. I said, I'm ready to go to sleep now. John Leslie said, no, you can't go now, Dad. I said, why? He said, it's not over until I win. That was his attitude. John Leslie won, and he got up and he yawned. And he said, I'm ready to go to sleep now. And I'm saying to you, what if all of us took that attitude after we face a rejection and a no, or we have a meeting and no one shows up? Nobody believes in you. You've lost again and again and again. The lights are cut off, but you're still looking at your dream, reviewing it every day, and say to yourself, it's not over until I win.
wow.
Amen.
Some people
Amen.
say it ain't over to the fat lady sing.
It all depends on how you look at it. So
All depends on who the fat lady is.
exactly, exactly. And when we say certain things, we be like, this or that, but the determination is all depend on who's talking or who's listening. So, but I picked that because that's the way we see things is how we live our lives. The stuff that my wife just got finished saying, it just all depends on what your experiences are, what you've been through, what has happened in your life, and what actually took place to get you where you are today. That, like she grew up in Montgomery County. I grew up in Southeast Washington, D.C. And technically, that's two different dynamics. It's two different areas. It's two different, you know, ways of thinking. It's just ways of thinking that I had, she would never have. And then there are ways of thinking that she has that I would never have.
But
Just
I'm
because,
training them.
oh, wow, she training me.
Yeah.
Jesus, man. But I was thinking this week, man, and I was just leading up to tonight and everything. I was like, I'm just looking at where I am today and where I was, years ago. And I just know that 20 years ago, I had a perspective on life, man, that was pretty much um destructive. And it was destructive to the point that because of the environment or the world that I came from or that I lived most of my life in, that's the way I saw things. And I thought things were going a certain way and they weren't necessarily going that way. I was just in a situation where that I thought I thought like many people that I knew thought. They thought that I would either end up locked up for the rest of my life or dead. I thought the same thing. I didn't know which way things was going, but that was because of how I had spent most of my life thinking. And I was talking to God this week, and and trust me, man, when God talks to you, it ain't gonna necessarily when God talks to you, it's not gonna necessarily be what you expect it to, you know. And when you ask God questions you have to be in a position or be in a mindset to receive the answer. So the reason why I'm saying that is this is that, I was talking to God this week and I was asking questions, about, where I stand right now. And I was, I'm I guess you could say I'm kind of confused. I don't know, which way things are going, what's happening, when things are gonna open up, when things are gonna, turn. So, I'm asking questions. That's the kind of child I am. I'm asking questions. So, the when I asked the question, and I don't know, I may have went to sleep, and it was spoken to me, but you know, I always knew from a child that I was a leader. So I always carried myself that way. I was always doing something that everybody else either would not do or could not do. So I always knew that I was a leader. But when I was talking to God and when He answered me, He said, "You're a leader, but you're not leading." And I'm like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute, hold on. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that." And I needed Him to help me to understand what he was trying to tell me or what he was trying to show me. And so the scenario that he gave me, and I was listening to something. There are leaders and then there are leaders. There are leaders that lead and then there are leaders that are led. If you look at people like Napoleon, Napoleon was a leader, but he didn't lead well. There are people that that are leaders, but they just don't lead well. And the acid test of whether you're a good leader or a bad leader, do you have people following you? Do people follow you that are invested in your vision, in the vision that you're trying to promote? So, I mean, how we see the world today, you got people, and I don't want to get into a political type of thing, but you got leaders that are leading, and they're leading people, right into bad situations. They're leading people into bad mindsets. They're leading people into lies and deceit and all these kinds of things. And, there's been a difference in opinions and the way we think for a long time, for a long time. And so in that sense, that's why we are touching on this topic right here, how we see the world today, because we see it totally different. So Pastor Jessica, or no, I'm sorry,
That's all right.
we're not doing pastors on the
On
Grace
Grace Cafe.
Cafe. So Jessica, um I wanted to ask you how you know, as opposed to how you thought 20 years ago to how you think today, is there a difference in the way you see the world or is it not?
Um, I want to ask you a question, and I know that's terrible. How you just gonna get on
You
somebody's show
can't
and ask them a question?
you can't
No, but I was
answer a
listening to
question
something you
with a
was.
question.
No, I was listening to something you saying, and I will answer that question. Um, when 20 years ago, when you were living a destructive life, were you destructive for the point of just being destructive, or did you have an end goal in mind? Like when I was 20 years ago, for me, I was in ministry doing ministry. And so, has my mindset changed? Not very much. Have I grown as a believer? Absolutely.
Hmm.
But has my mindset changed? Not very much. And how I see the world, um, developing as a believer, of course, I see the world differently, because what God is constantly doing is removing from me those things that prevent me from seeing clearly. And I'm always asking for that. I'm like, I
Right.
want to see in the realm of the spirit. I don't want to see. the world. I don't want to see how the world sees. I don't want to operate how the world operates.
Yeah.
Because for me, that's important. For everybody, that's not important. But 40 years ago, definitely very different. Um, that I would be 10.
I was
I would
getting
be
ready to say
14.
you will be
Okay.
10.
Let me
Let's
bring that up a little bit.
bring it
Let
up.
me say, so 20 years ago, I would have been in my 30s.
Right.
So, yep, still in ministry. So, 25 years ago. Nope, not even 25.
I'm sorry.
Man, you should put the camera on and then everybody can see what he's laughing at. But I don't think you could do that and do it right.
Oh my God.
Um,
He was like calling her. She's like, Nick.
right, I ain't doing that.
She was
Because you
like,
can probably
Nick.
hear our dog is like sitting here and
No,
she's making a lot of
she's
noise. And if
laying
y'all
here.
can hear her, it's all good. It's all good. It's
Just
just our
know that
dog.
ain't,
Just know.
ain't nobody sleep. Nobody sleep. She's wide awake making all that
She in the
noise.
studio audience making all that
Just
racket.
laying across the floor making a racket noise.
See how she see the world today, and she wants some attention.
Yeah.
And we ain't giving it to her.
Yeah.
So she like, okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna make all the noise I could possibly make. But anyway, before when I was 19, I'll be 55 next week actually. But when I was 19, that's when the conversion happened for me. So let's say before 19, I was in a destructive state too. But I had an end game. I was like, I'm too chicken to kill myself. So let me just
Oh
stay
wow.
in areas or put myself in situations where I can just be taken out because I just ain't want to be here.
Right.
I was like, things weren't going the way I thought they should be going. I had a terrible perspective of everything. And for me, it was like, what's the point? I had no focus. I had no vision. I had no nothing. So I'm like, okay, I can put myself in situations where I could just be taken out, that I don't have to worry about any of this.
Right.
And the whole time I'm thinking I'm gonna get taken out and go to heaven because at the time I was thinking, oh man, if I commit suicide, I ain't going to heaven. I'm going straight to hell, and I ain't really trying to live an eternity there. So let me keep myself around people on the verge of death or people that's always putting themselves in a situation where death could be the end game. And I had a lot of people, can't say I had a lot of people die in front of me, but I've had a lot of people lose their lives as a result of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I was trying to put myself there because that's what I wanted. I had that end game. That's why I was asking you that. And that's like he said, growing up in Montgomery County. And what the point I want to make is it don't matter where you grow up at. There is how you think and how you perceive things. It is shaped by your environment, but it isn't made real by your environment. It's made real by what you expose yourself to once you get to an age of just being exposed to stuff. And so I'm sure being in Montgomery County didn't change me from being on a destructive path. I was still on a destructive path. Might not have been the same destructive path, but it was still a destructive path. And it probably still came from the same little attacks of the enemy trying to just get you off your path, get you off of what God has for you. So in answer to your question, that's why I was asking you, did you have an end game? Was your end game, man, I know I'm gonna end up in prison my whole life. At one point in my life, I just felt like, hey, once I had kids, I was like, well, I'm just here to raise them, and once I'm finished raising them, man, I can just check out. I don't really need to be here. Ain't nothing here for me. I might as well be gone. So for yourself, did you have an end game, or was it just
my end game was death because of the drugs I was using, and my end game was death. I figured I would probably die, but at the end of the day, I felt like if I lived and kept going, that my mom would lead me to Christ, and then if I died, I'd be okay. But she died.
same end game now? Death.
Yeah,
Same end game.
it was.
Different environments, different places, same end game. It's same enemy, honestly. Same person trying to, and that is the enemy's game to steal, kill, and destroy. And I was all in. I was like, man, we was buddies. So I was like, yeah, we could do this. I can die.
Mm-hmm.
Then I don't have to deal with it. Because for me, to be alive and not living was not acceptable.
Right.
Just like in the clip when he said, oh no, we can't stop until I win. And I was like, man, if I'm gonna be alive, I gotta be winning. And while I wasn't winning, I was like, well, I don't want to be alive. But when I learned that how I was thinking, the people I was spending time with, all these things that were shaping my environment, when I learned that I needed to cut those things out so that I could start living, then I just did it.
Yeah.
And I had trained myself to know how to just cut people off without any residual impact or effect. I just knew how to do. I was, man, it was so easy. I didn't even think about it because mostly because, like we talked about, I don't know if it was yesterday or a couple weeks ago, we all have these protection mechanisms where we learn how to protect ourselves, protect our hearts, whatever you want to call it. We put these walls up so that we can exist around the people that we want to exist around.
Yeah.
And I use that word because there's a difference between existing and living. And when you learn how to live, you ain't even worried about existing because living now takes precedence.
Well, that's what I mean, I guess we just see that as different because I mean, I remember me, thinking destructive, but it didn't start out that way. It ended up that way, and God transitioned it into something else, but it didn't start that way.
I don't think nobody started
You
destructive.
know, well, I think I pretty much started destructive. Melvin was talking to me yesterday, and he was reiterating to me why he was so protective of me all our life. But um, he gave me a scenario from when we was kids that I had pretty much forgot about. And if you knew me back then, I was a kid that, all I did was read. I was very quiet and all I did was read. And for the most part, I had no idea how things transpired into what it did at that early age. But, he reminded me that we was like 7, 8 years old, which was true. But, that's when things started, you know, well, no, before that, before I met him, things had already started turning. And I was a little kid, so I had really no control over what was going on with me at that time. But what I uh what what I what I did by the time that I met sit down, sit. By the time that I met my father, that turned me I turned all that stuff inside, internal. So me dealing with that at such a young age is what turned my perspective. It changed my perspective because my mother was teaching me, even though, what was going on with me at that time was different than a lot of kids. My mom was teaching me to go to school, get a job, and and just live my life. But these things were happening, and when things like that are happening, nobody is thinking, how is this going to affect this kid? I've been a at-risk kid since I was 8 years old. I was an at-risk kid. That's what they called
You
me.
was born black. You was already at risk.
No, but I was even more at risk because of the things that were going on in my house. So I was an at-risk kid at 7, 8 years old, 6 years old, you know, and all these things were happening, and they pretty much, Roxy, come here, come here,
I ain't
come
calling
here.
you.
Come over here.
I ain't going.
Come here. Sit. Sit down. Yeah, sit.
Welcome to our living room.
Say hi to the people.
Pull a face up so they can see you.
Come here. Say hi to the people. He said, no,
Nah,
I'm
sorry.
good.
Nope. No pop rocks.
No, but you know, that I when I was that age, I had a perspective that of myself that I wanted to happen.
Really? Really?
Don't ask me why I'm letting her go sit down. Go sit down. Josh, come and get her. Go.
Why are you scratching me?
Why are you being extra right now?
She being real extra.
Scratch me up. Look at that. I want workers' comp. I want workers' comp.
I don't know what her problem is today. Sit.
Sit.
But how I saw the world back then, and I guess you got to go that far to to see the difference in the way we see the world today. Back then, it was real different. It was it,
We still weren't, and we're still not. But just hear me. We were still in a transitional state where racism is concerned.
yeah.
You had so much going on where civil rights are concerned. You had so much going on, and then you had a lot of people dying. Not to mention, you had the whole crack thing that went through. You just there was so much happening that the perspective of the world had to be bleak, especially in the inner city.
And it was. It
And
was.
then, where I was from, granted, it wasn't the inner city, but it wasn't that much better. Things were done on the down low, or you couldn't see it, and they wasn't reporting on that like they was reporting on what was going on in DC. But I mean, it was still the same mess, just different area for the most
Yeah.
part.
But I think the point that that needs to be seen here is that I had a perspective of how I wanted. Be honest, when I was 8 years old, and a lot of people may remember this car, but I wanted to be an architect.
Oh wow.
I wanted to be an architect, and I wanted to drive a red TR7 sports car.
I don't even know what a TR7 is.
You know, I wanted to be a businessman. And by the time I was 10 years old, and I didn't know any at that time. I didn't know anything about the racism, because I was a kid, so that kind of stuff wasn't, on my mind. But my perspective changed from what I wanted my life to be to um, what it was.
It's funny that he's saying he didn't know about it because we moved from a predominantly black neighborhood into a predominantly white neighborhood. And I knew about it. At 5 years old, we moved to Montgomery County. I was 5
Yeah.
or 4. And so, whereas you didn't know about it, you weren't exposed to it, I was very much exposed to it. I think our first experience there, they didn't want us in that neighborhood. So
Yeah.
I can't remember what they did, but they did something they shouldn't have done. And I didn't understand it because,
Our son has a real problem.
really? Oh, you looked it up. Oh, wow. That's funny. That's the car?
That's the car. That's the
Oh,
car.
wow.
That's what I
That's
wanted.
what's up.
That's what I wanted. But
You wanted a no top on it
I
like
want,
that too?
yeah, I wanted a candy apple red
Put
TR7.
that back up there.
Yep. And that's the one. That's the
That's
one
it.
right there. Yep.
It ain't too late, baby. You can
And
still get the.
nah, that junk old as all. I ain't even heard of them since I was a
I
kid.
bet you it's around somewhere.
I'm quite sure they just like them Z's. But that's what I saw in my future. I saw that car. I saw an office. I saw me, drawing drawing buildings and whatever the case may be. and that's what I wanted for my life. And that whole perspective changed by the time I was 10 years old.
You know, it's interesting. I have no idea what I ever wanted as a kid.
Yeah.
I know what I wanted. And I think I wanted so much, but it's funny. The one thing that I wanted,
Wow.
for some reason, was to be in an entertainment area, and I don't know if I wanted that because I was so hungry for attention,
Mm.
or if I actually had some kind of skill there or something. I think and maybe it was a combination of both. I don't know. Maybe it's a plan that I missed God on. I don't know. But that's what I wanted. And later on, it just transitioned um, into wanting to preach,
Mm-hmm.
even though there wasn't no women preachers nowhere.
Mm.
But it transitioned into that. But as a kid, I mean, I can't even remember what I dreamt about being as a kid.
Yeah, that's what I
Um,
wanted though. And I don't even know any people that were, architects back then. I don't even remember if I where I saw it at. If I saw it on TV, I don't know. I'm not sure if I saw it on a show or if somebody that was close to me was a architect or whatever. I did learn how to draw, but I didn't
you still
get.
draw?
I did. No, I haven't drawn in a long time.
I've been trying to get it out of you. I've been trying. I've been trying.
Roxy is a. Mm, I was about to call her something. Um,
Do remember that you're live.
yeah.
Whatever you're gonna call her, as long as you keep the respect on Grace, you good. You say what you want to say.
No, but I'm not even sure if I knew a architect back then. But what I did know was that you know I didn't have I didn't have any male figures in my house, or even that was close to me. The first male figure that I really knew was a pastor that my mom had, way back in the day, and this is the pastor that she connected with, and you know he just pulled her in, and she started changing.
Yeah.
So you know, and I'm sure that how she saw the world before she met him is totally different than the way she saw the world when she left here, because it changed her,
Absolutely.
you know.
The interesting thing is that we all change over time if we want to.
Yeah.
How many ever ran into somebody you went to high school with and they the same person they was 20, 30 years ago, and you're like, dang, you still the same.
How you do that?
Yeah. And there are there are actually some clinical reasons how and why
Mm-hmm.
people stand still. But since this is not a clinical show, I won't go there. But I just say that to say we grow, we evolve, we change, and how we see the world today is just different because the world is different.
Yeah.
And I can remember at one point my dad used to say, every generation he said will get worse. Every
Yeah.
generation gets worse. Every generation gets worse. And what I believe is that the generations appear to get worse because we're not sowing into them. We're not
Exactly.
saying anything to them. We're not spending time with them. We're not doing what they used to do back in the day, sitting down and telling them stories and helping them to see the world from a perspective that will encourage them, that will build them up, that will give them some stick to itiveness,
Yeah.
as opposed to, just giving up on everything. I like what the brother said. He said, "No, it ain't over till I win." And if we live like that,
Yeah.
can you imagine just living like that?
Just living like
Every
that.
day it's like you getting hit with rejection. You getting hit with rejection here and there. And you living your everyday life like,
Yeah.
oh no, I ain't stopping till I win.
Yeah.
I learned to do that. And I learned to do that at, like, I was telling Josh the other day, when things weren't going real good, and I ended up having to go work at Shoppers. And I knew it was temporary. I was like, I'm just trying to make some extra money, whatever. A lady there told me, oh, that's what everybody's saying. And they end up being lifers. Oh man, all she did was motivate me. I was like, oh,
to not be that.
not me,
Mm-mm.
baby. And it wasn't just her, other people. It's like when I needed to get public assistance and I needed to get food stamps. It was an Asian lady. I remember that because she made me mad. And she said, "Oh, everybody coming here thinking it's just temporary. They only need it for a little while." I was like, "Oh, you just motivated me,
You
honey."
should have punched her in the face.
I mean, back in that day, I probably would have,
But
but
that's not a Grace perspective.
not at all. But it motivated me. For
Yeah.
somebody to tell me I couldn't do something, then I put everything I had into doing it. Not only doing it, but doing my best.
Yeah.
And every time I won. I don't think there's anything that I can't do. And the fact that I still live like that, people just think, oh, it's because she's saved. She just thinks she can do all things through Christ.
Yeah.
No, before I even acknowledge Christ, I believe that there's nothing that I can't do. Nothing. And I go for everything with everything I have on the inside of me. Now I have Christ, it's even worse. It's not really worse. But now that I have Christ, I do recognize I can do all things
You can
through
do
him.
all things. Yeah.
And that's what I do. I do all things through him.
Amen.
And
Amen.
it has changed my perspective on
I think about
how I
stuff
see
like
the world.
that. I mean, and our kids don't know how, the goals that we set before they even got here. And, I just, I look at my me just having children in my life to call mine, and how I thought at the age of 10 that if I ever had children, what I was going through back then, it would never be that. It would never be that. And God has blessed me to, live this life and, go down this road. And I am absolutely nothing like what I went through.
He's a great dad.
You know?
He is a great dad. There are two people, three, if I'm honest, that are just the best dads I've ever seen in my life. And I don't mean Father Knows best dad. I mean just like good dads. And he's one of them. The other one is Tony Brazelton Jr. He's a good dad. He's a good dad. I mean, just watching them interact with their kids and how they talk to them, it's just man. And my dad, he was a good dad. He had to grow into it, but
You better stop your mother upstairs.
she know he had to grow into it. Did I lie? Never lied, Mom. Never lied. But just like your mom, my dad he got into the word and he started converting. He started changing. He
Yeah.
started becoming a different person. So before he left here, he was a good dad. He was always a good dad, but he was a protective dad. And his way of protection sometimes was brutal. But
Well, back then he had to be brutal. Y'all was some hard head.
he had 4 girls, y'all. He had to live in the house with 4
Yeah,
girls.
he ain't had no choice but to be brutal. He had 4 girls.
And you've lived in the house with all women before. How is that?
I lived most of my life like that.
God bless you.
Matter of fact, I'm talking about most of my life. I lived all of my life like that. But the way my grandmother and my mom was, and even my aunt, man, they were strong, man. They were strong, especially my grandmother and my aunt. My mom was strong, but she was strong in a different way. She was, she was just she was just her, and but them 3 ladies, oh man, there was no way I was gonna grow up and be no punk. That's just wasn't gonna happen. My grandmother used to, this the way my grandmother used to see things. She used to say, you better not never go out of this house and come back and somebody has marked you. And I ain't know what that meant, until I did it. and I had to go back out the house. And she was just one of them grandmothers. Don't let nobody mark you. If they mark you, you make sure you mark them worse. You know what I mean? And
Do
so
I need to be like
my grandmother
do I
was
need to
gangster.
interpret that for you?
No, my grandmother was gangster, man. I mean, it's nothing. It's nothing.
In other words, don't come in with a black eye unless
Yeah,
that person is
yeah.
so toe down. They like, that's the only one
You
they
know,
got in.
yep. So, so I mean, my family, man, was my family, but you know, I just took a different road. I just, based on the things that were going on with me at that time, I took a different road. And so, based on that different road, my perspective changed. How I saw the world, how thought I saw the world, drastically changed at the age of 10. You know, so.
It's interesting that you would say that, and I know we got to close out, but um, how anybody sees the world is subject to their environment partly,
Mhm.
but then there's also nurture and nature.
Mm.
There's certain things that happen naturally,
Yeah, you gotta
and there's
explain
certain
that one.
things that happen through nurturing. Um, most people feel like moms are the nurturing ones in a family,
Yeah,
but when you're raising boys, you want to nurture your boys, but at the same time, like he said, you're not trying to raise no punks.
right,
So you want to give them enough sternness to understand you can't. No woman can teach a boy how to be a man. Now you can raise a boy,
but
but
you
you
can't
can't teach
teach
him
them
how
how
to
to
be a
be a
man.
man.
You just can't.
It was just
And
never
so
intended to be that way.
and it wasn't.
Yep.
But and when I say nature, like um people talk about breaking generational curses.
Hmm.
Well, that comes from a natural inclination to do something that somebody else in your family did.
Yeah, yeah,
If they say daddy was a hoe, you gonna be a hoe too.
yeah.
Something like that. So that's nature. Natural. It comes from that natural instinct to do it. You made a decision in a lot of ways that there's certain things that you knew naturally that you just wasn't going to do, which
Right,
is what made you a good dad. But then nurture, that's that pulling from that nurturing component of the mom.
right.
And so when I say there's a different there is your environment that influences you, then
It
there's
is.
your
Yeah,
family that influences you, the
yeah,
natural, and then there's nurture, that nurturing component of the mom or whoever the nurturer was, whether it was your grandmother, your mom, or maybe there wasn't one.
yeah.
But all of those are influences, and it all influences how you see. And I'm 100% believe it doesn't matter whether you grew up in Southeast or Montgomery County. It doesn't matter. Sometimes your mindset and how you see things is exactly the same, and it's not because of necessarily the environment, but it's what you've been exposed to.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but anyhow,
Well, at the end of the day, we got to wrap up. But at the end of the day, I heard this quote a while ago, and it's up for debate whether he actually said it. But it's been said that Mahatma Gandhi said, "You got to be the change that you want to see in the world," and I think that changes the perspective on everything. If you want to see good in the world, then be good. If you want to see bad in the world, then you're gonna be bad. Amen. So I'm gonna wrap up with that. We are just being consistent on Grace Cafe because I know God told me to do this through a friend. So I haven't necessarily been procrastinating. What I've been is just going through stuff, and I've allowed, and I had to, we talking about forgiveness at church, and I've had to forgive myself for everything that I have not done that I know God has told me to do. Sit down, Rocks. Sit. I said sit, not fall. Um, sit. Sit down.
mm-mm.
Sit
Okay,
down.
I'm not a problem. Jesus is Lord.
chill. So I've had to forgive myself for a lot because I start and stop. And, it just all depends on what has been going on in my life. And a lot has been going on in my life. But, God has let me know that that's no excuse. If I told you to do something, just get it done and just go from there. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing with Grace Cafe. That's what we're doing with um, Growing in Grace. That's what we're doing with Grace Forward Steps. That's what we're doing with everything in our lives, our children, our marriage, everything. God told us to do it, so we're going to get it done because, he said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So we're going to wrap up.
That car too. I'm glad you showed it to me. I'm gonna find that car, one that look just like that.
Yeah.
You gonna go outside in the driveway and be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, no, you didn't." And I'll be like, "Yes, I did." And Josh gonna be recording it.
That was my joint back in the day. And I
I
mean,
got a
it's
drafting table in the closet.
it's
I need to pull it out.
crazy. It's crazy how I'm still able to remember that because everything just changed. Everything changed for me at 10 years old. At 10 years old, everything changed for me, and age from age 11 all the way to 38. And most of you guys know this from 11 to 38. I was in and out of jails and institutions consistently for that whole what is that, 28 years, I think it is, close to 30 years consistently. And so my perspective has changed. I've had to reinvent myself a whole lot of times, but that doesn't mean that my the way I saw the world couldn't be fixed, because I see the world in a totally different light now. I see the world through the eyes of God, through grace, through faith, and all these things. And man, it's just an amazing journey. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Roxy, thanks you for tuning in, even though she did a lot of distractions and unnecessary stuff, but she loves you just like we do. So we will see you guys the next time on the Grace Cafe. Peace.
People seen it, but they just don't know. People seen it, but they just don't know.
So this is where it all ended for me. Everything in the street, this is where it ended for me. It's where I used to hang out in MLK and Park Lane. So when that police car cut that corner and locked me up, that's where it all ended. And we here today. It's crazy that to come back here, because this is also the place that I used to come and minister and pass out lunches and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a real advocate for these people, because these people are me, or were me. So I want to see them. I want to see them get delivered just like I did.
People seen it, but they just don't know.